How dare you refuse my mother? You useless girl, my husband shouted. The plate shattered against my head during a family dinner because I refused to sign my apartment over to his mother or pay her $1,200 every single month. For a moment, the crack of ceramic against my skull was louder than his voice. Sauce slid through my hair and down my neck. Food scattered across the table. No one moved. His mother grabbed her chest dramatically. His sister smirked and casually lifted her phone, already recording. One of his cousins stared down at his plate as if none of this was happening. My parents were not there. His father wasn't there either. Convenient. I slowly stood up. The chair scraped across the floor, echoing through the room. My head was ringing, but my hands were steady. I reached into my hair and pulled out a sharp piece of the broken plate. I placed it on the table. Then I wiped the sauce from my shoulder and looked directly at my husband. You have no idea, I said quietly, what I'm capable of. The room fell into an uneasy silence. Someone muted the television in the living room. Even the ceiling fan suddenly sounded too loud. Hello everyone, I continued calmly, glancing around the table. My name is Arya Cole. I'm 27 years old. For 2 years I've been the polite wife. The one who cooks, cleans, smiles in photos, and pays the bills while being called ungrateful. I leaned slightly against the table. I bought my apartment before I even met Ryan. 2 jobs, no help from anyone. His mother Eleanor scoffed loudly. That apartment, she said, waving her hand dismissively, is family property now. I shook my head slowly. No, I replied. It's the last thing tying me to myself. I looked at the shattered plate pieces on the table and then back at Ryan. Standing there, surrounded by spilled gravy and broken ceramic, I realized something important. This wasn't a marriage. It was a takeover. And I was done being the silent investor. Ryan blinked at me like he didn't recognize the woman in front of him. Maybe he didn't. He only knew the version of me he could control. Eleanor leaned back in her chair with a dramatic sigh. Oh, please, Arya, she said. Don't be dramatic. Ryan barely touched you. Now sit down and sign the transfer papers like a proper daughter-in-law. Ryan stepped closer. You embarrassed my family tonight, he said coldly. Tomorrow you'll apologize, and you'll transfer the apartment to my mother. I tilted my head. You mean the apartment I bought furnished, renovated, and paid taxes on long before you appeared in my life? His sister laughed loudly from the couch. Stop pretending you're rich, she said. That tiny apartment won't save you. I looked directly at her. It already did once, I said quietly. And it's about to save me again. Eleanor slammed her hand on the table. A wife shares everything. She snapped. You didn't raise me, I replied calmly. You barely tolerate me. Ryan suddenly grabbed my wrist. You think you're brave now? He hissed. Tomorrow morning you'll apologize. I pulled my hand free. No, I said. Tomorrow morning you won't see me. The room fell silent again. His cousins exchanged confused looks. His aunt whispered something under her breath. Eleanor rolled her eyes. She's bluffing, she said. She always comes back. But Ryan stared at me differently. Because for the first time he understood. I wasn't threatening them. I was giving them a deadline. I walked past him. Past the table. Past every stunned face in that suffocating living room. No one stopped me. Not because they respected me, but because they didn't know which version of me had just woken up. Behind me, Eleanor's voice hissed through the hallway. She's bluffing. Before breakfast she'll crawl back. Ryan's voice followed me toward the door. Arya, don't you dare walk out. We're not finished. I turned slowly. Oh, I said calmly. We're finished. You just don't know it yet. Ryan clenched his jaw. You're emotional, he snapped. No, I replied. I'm strategic. I wiped the last streak of sauce from my cheek and dropped the napkin to the floor. You wanted my apartment. You wanted my money. You wanted control. I stepped closer and lowered my voice. Then maybe you should have checked whose name is on the house you're living in. Eleanor laughed loudly. Sweetheart, she said smugly, this house is in my son's name. I smiled. That's what you thought. The room froze. Ryan's cousin whispered, Wait, what does she mean? Ryan took a step toward me, his confidence shaking. Arya, he said slowly, what are you talking about? I leaned in closer. When we got married, your credit score was 520, I said quietly. You were drowning in debt. Every loan application you made was rejected. His face turned pale. Remember who signed the mortgage? I tapped my temple. Remember who the primary borrower was? Silence spread across the room like ice. I bought this house, I said. With my money. I only let you put your name second out of kindness. Whispers erupted around the table. Ryan's lips trembled. Arya, we can talk about this. I opened the door. No, I said. You can talk to the eviction notice. Cold night air hit my face as I stepped outside. For the first time in months, I could breathe. Inside, the house voices exploded into chaos. Eleanor screamed. Ryan shouted. Someone dropped a glass. But I didn't look back. I walked calmly to my car and sat behind the steering wheel, gripping it tightly. My mind wasn't spinning. It was calculating. For 2 years I paid every mortgage payment. Every bill. Every grocery trip. Every repair. Ryan's family treated me like a walking bank account. And I allowed it. Because I believed marriage meant patience. Now it meant paperwork. I started the engine and drove to the only person who had never failed me. My grandmother, June. When I arrived, her porch light was still on. She opened the door, took one look at me, and said calmly, Tell me what they did. So I told her everything. Every insult. Every demand for money. Every attempt to force me to sign away my apartment. Grandma didn't gasp. She didn't scold. She simply listened. When I finished, she walked to the kitchen drawer, pulled out a thick folder, and placed it in my hands. I was waiting for the day you stopped trying to please people who don't deserve you, she said. Inside the folder were bank statements, property documents, screenshots from the family chat, and legal forms. At the very top was a bright yellow note. Eviction process starts here. Grandma smiled calmly. It's time, she said. So we prepared. By morning, every document was ready. At 7:12 a.m., I parked in front of the house. My house. Ryan rushed to the door when I rang the bell. Eleanor stood behind him in a robe. His sister was already recording again. I handed Ryan an envelope. You, your mother, and your sister have 30 days to leave my property, I said. Eleanor's face turned white. Ryan's voice cracked. Arya, please. I pulled out another envelope. And these are the divorce papers. The hallway fell silent. At that moment, Ryan's father stepped forward. Thomas looked at the documents, then at me. Good, he said quietly. Everyone stared at him in shock. I should have stopped this a long time ago, he admitted. Then he turned to his wife. You don't need support, he said. You need consequences. And for the first time in 2 years, someone in that house stood beside me instead of against me. I walked outside again into the morning air. Freedom felt strangely quiet. Thomas opened the door behind me and asked gently, What will you do now? I looked down the street, feeling lighter than I had in years. I'm going home, I said softly. And this time I meant my own.